on Monday, Sentinel in chat during Curse of Strahd said, is there anywhere that there's a place for a recap of all the campaigns that have been done on Howreroll? We've been at it for 10 years. We're on our 11th campaign at this point in time. And there is a place on the YouTubes that actually has some recaps of the earlier campaigns that was done by Gorbad, myself, and Jane. The problem with those recaps is they're kind of vague, and they don't tell what happens during the campaign. It just says this is kind of like what the campaign is about in a broad sense, in a themed sense, you know? But there's no... This is specifically what transpired. So I figured I'd do this tonight, put it on Howreroll YouTube later this week or next week, and begin the idea that Satchmo and I had to have rewatch parties, where basically throughout the summer, we, with your collaboration chat, rewatch particular episodes in campaigns that we've done, and just shoot the shit, and talk, and be casual, and drink, and smoke, and, you know, have fun, it doesn't matter. And have the mods, or other cast members, or viewers get in Discord and voice chat with us and say their opinions, or what they liked about it, what they didn't like, have questions. You know, just like kind of a rewatch, not a summary, but yeah, kind of that. Or eat Pringles, sure. That is something I need to develop further with Satch, but we both seem to enjoy the idea of it. It became even clearer especially after what Sentinel came to me with on Monday, that this would kind of be the opening salvo. Like, this would be where I give you the full rundown of all the campaigns to the best of my memory. I'm really hopeful you guys, like, feed me some information that I might have forgotten. And I be as succinct or as clear-spoken as possible to show you the scope of what we've done on Howreroll in the past 10 years. Without getting bogged down in, like, play-by-plays. Like, we went here, then we went here, then we went here. We did this, we did that, then we did the other. Because, let's be real, it's D&D. There's random shit happening all the fucking time, right? Like, it's not... Those particular story beats are not the most important in recapping, as long as people have a sense of what the campaign was about and what the overall story is kind of leading to. Also, we can have... My Taco Bell has arrived. Alright, Jane. You guys are funny. Also, while giving you kind of some behind-the-scenes moments or events or things, I'm not going to trash talk anybody, but there were some moments in some of the campaigns that were cause of, like, what are you doing? How is this happening? Why are you doing it this way? Which could add some fun, flavorful context to it. Oh, I already did, Jane. I mean, that's coming right out the gate. You're going to see it instantly. Obviously, this is going to be from my perspective only. I'm going to try my hardest not to speak for other players, other castmates, because that's not my job or place. But I will give you my impression of a situation, especially if we kind of talk slightly out of character and in terms of just player to player, cast to cast. I'm not going to trash talk anybody. I'm going to reiterate that. But there were definitely moments that I think some viewers were like, oh, what's going on here? You know, everything I say is going to be with love and with enjoyment. These were probably the most fun I've had in the last 10 years, has been doing Howreroll content. With Gorbad, Jane, Matt, Christy, Satch, Nat, Spook, Bane, Dystress. You know? Sorry if I have to... I'm only human, guys. I'm only human, alright? And I haven't toked up for this. Because, you know. But first off, Sentinel. What was the last campaign you fully watched, or you're the most kind of caught up on? Because that'll give me like a point of where to focus more on than other places. Just anything you kind of remember, and if you're just like I'm fuzzy on the whole fucking thing, you can say that too. That's acceptable. What would my wait? Is that the entire snapshot? Oh, you're showing me the snapshot, and what would his first item be? Confused Solar. Who was their bot lane? The fuck? Was it Zed and Jax? With Kale, Viego, and Garen. Okay. Kia is not prohibited from using fire. I think the year has passed. In game time. I need to get away from the white screen. Yeah. Everything's kind of a white... I mean, I don't think it really makes a difference. You look at my... anyway. Yeah, the Dark Reader is a little clanky on Roll20. Some things get kind of... They don't come... It doesn't poke through because they still do the white overlay, so it becomes weird. I have tried dark mode many times on Howreroll, and it looks a little weird. Because some of the boxes of some of the things come out fucky. I remember you playing some devoted to St. Cuthbert on Fuzzy-Amos. Okay, Sentinel, so Jesus Christ. The Howreroll cover's better? Okay, let's calm down, guys. We're gonna get there. There, see? Let me open up a notepad, because this will actually make my life easier. And I will... Brook Sorrow. What's that? Alright, so... Got rid of you, Dark Inquest, Children Jakar. Did I spell Jakar right? Yes. Wrath of the Fallen, Minden Brook Sorrow, Mist of Cairnmore, Beneath the Veil, Rise of the Fallen. Echoes of Aldersea Prologue. Oh, yeah, we did the prologue too. So, Echoes of Aldersea, of Kith and Kin, and finally Curse of Strahd. It's funny enough, so Curse of Strahd is the first of our campaigns that has been heavily edited, but was a pre-written adventure to run on Howreroll. But still, it's technically part of Arconas' canon, because the characters in Curse of Strahd come from Arconas. So that's why I'm keeping it within the list. So, sorry for the white, guys. It's a little annoying, but we're just gonna live with it. Let me bump up the... What's this? No napkin? Yeah, this is notepad. Notepad. Alright, so these are the campaigns that we have run on Howreroll main channel. For those of you who don't remember, Howreroll used to be 3 days a week. We played Dungeons & Dragons specifically on Mondays and Thursdays. And then on Tuesdays, we did a little recap show called Dialogues and Dice. That was the schedule for the first 3 or 4-ish years of Howreroll. It changed when members of the cast were added or had to leave or go on a break. You know, we had to adjust accordingly. So that Tuesday stopped being a thing. We stopped doing a stream on Tuesday. It was too much work for Gorbad. He was too overwhelmed. He needed a little bit more time between the sessions. Then he had the genius idea to split the days between D&D on Mondays and other systems, other tabletop games on Thursday. So Thursday became a place for Call of Cthulhu, for Paranoia, for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, West End Star Wars, and other systems like that. This was also because some members of the cast were unable to make 2 days a week. You know, their real-life jobs became real, they had relationships, just life happens. And it was a harder thing to commit to. So that's why we broke the days up. So back in the day, you could tell by episode numbers, like how many episodes in a campaign. Marks of Intrigue had like 35 episodes total. Dark Inquest had around 50. Children of Jakar had X number. But the campaigns were lasting longer because we had less days per week to devote to it. And then when scheduling conflicts, holidays, outages, other problems occurred, sickness, and other issues occurred, you would cancel that day for that week, and it would just be a lost time. Case in point, Curse of Strahd is in its 51st episode, or 52nd episode by this point in time, and we're only halfway through it, and we would have been at episode 100 by now if it was a 2-day-a-week kind of deal. But we've been doing Curse of Strahd for about 2 years now. It's a long time since we've been doing Curse of Strahd. It's kind of impressive, actually, if you think about it. That's because there's a lot of lost time, there's a lot of lost sessions that we couldn't make, and it got pushed back. If not... Sorry. Prepper. So, okay, moving on. Arconas is a large world that Gorbad has been working on for many, many years, before Howreroll was a thing. He decided to start the campaign at a year zero kind of deal, with a lot of backstory for the world itself, but for our party to affect the future events. With the idea being, hey, if I want to run a D&D story or campaign with another party, another group, I can start at year zero in Arconas, at the neutral starting zone, without your influence, if I wanted to, so that they could have their own story, their own future, and Arconas could be shaped however they want it to be. Personally, as a world builder, writer myself, I would be more inclined to just drop them in at the current world state. The current world state of Arconas is this. Everything that's happened before Echoes of Aldersea has been a lead up to a god war. The whole point of Arconas is that we are currently in the throes of gods fighting gods, and gods actually dying out, or being killed off, or weakened. And all the events preceding it indirectly leads to this reality of a god war. Echoes of Aldersea is a demigod campaign. It's for the first time the party is playing angelic or demigod characters. Players, the characters who were half god, half human, or half whatever, that is the and of Kithington is happening during it, and Curse of Strahd is technically happening during it too. I will say that about 5 to 10 years passes between all of these campaigns, starting from Marks of Intrigue. I don't have an exact number. Gorbet, I think, has more detailed notes about what year these campaigns happen in. There's obviously some overlap with the campaigns, but the only way I know that time is passing is because whenever we return to what we on Howreroll call flagship characters, that's the first characters we've ever played, and that start at level 1 and go through the whole gamut of experience in D&D. I know that I had to age Radovan when we return to them. A lot of these characters, you return to them, you revisit them on a future campaign. So, it's pretty clear that Wrath of the Fallen and Rise of the Fallen are with the same characters. These are Emlyn, Tolgar, Emlyn and Tolgar. Then later on, we had, what's her face? Lilith, right? Or Lilith, yeah, it's Lilith. Right? And then Rise of the Fallen included Thelonious and, Kyla Ward, and, what the fuck was it again? God, I forgot. Like, I'm already kind of blanking, because there's so much at play here, and I just realized you can't see what I want to show you, so I'm going to get rid of this and minimize this. So there you go. Sorry for that. I was a little not realizing I was in window mode, not display mode. But these are the campaigns as they stand. Yeah, Tolgar shit. Yeah, Tolgar shit, obviously. Who did... Was that everybody? See, even I'm forgetting. And here you had the standard Radovan, Reza, and Kia, where you return to them in Children of Dakar. And here it's Radovan, Reza, Kia, and Marlowe. And down here, at this point, Mist of Cairnmorn, it's just Radovan, Kia, and Marlowe. Yeah. In a nutshell. When we create the campaigns, we have to make one of two choices, which kind of evolved over time. It was either you do new locations or new characters. Rarely both. You can kind of see this with the map. You kind of the map ever expands on Howreroll. It's one of the features that's debatable whether it's a good choice or a bad choice. But the players are never given a map beforehand. We learn where things are as it's revealed to us by Gorbet. It's a very interesting thing, which some people might be like, well, that doesn't make much sense, because you should know your surroundings as characters. The characters should know their surrounding. But we wanted to... It simplified things. The notion of Marks of Intrigue, the first characters, our flagship characters of Radovan, Reza, and Kia, played by myself, Bane, and Jane respectively, was that we woke up in a strange area that we were not familiar with. And we learned locations as it evolved, as it grew. Here is the main map of the Marks of Intrigue. And the Marks of Intrigue were pretty straightforward. The party woke up with strange marks on their bodies. We learned very quickly that the marks are bad, and after a certain amount of time, you blow up. You turn into blue goo. And we are, essentially as a party, forced to work together because we all have the same marks. We learn that the marks react to our emotions, and if ever an emotion is overpowering us as player characters, we have to do willpower tests to overcome it, to resist it. Otherwise, we go fucking cogwiles. During the campaign, we are strung along to different people in the lands to basically find specific ingredients under the premise that these ingredients will remove the mark from our body and spare us this unfortunate fate. That is the entire premise of Marks of Intrigue. We get strung along, go to all these locations, all these mini stories in between. We encounter druids, other wizards, unfortunate monsters. We are told to go to particular places for the ingredients. That is the basic premise of the Marks of Intrigue. I am gonna this is a summary recap. I'm gonna spoil things. We learn when we go to the Tri-Crown Mountains that the ingredients and the people who have helped us along the way are the very cult members that put the marks on us to begin with. They put the marks on us to begin with under the intention to resurrect a dead god. A dead, unnamed dead chaos god. We never in this campaign learned the name of the god, but the ingredients needed were, you know, like the eye of a beholder, this chalice of this thing, this other thing of that other thing, you know, like particular things, ingredients that the cultists manipulated us to retrieve for them to do it. Pretend to be a god of some desert people. Yes, we go to the desert of Lanthan. We go to ancient temples of another religion. We steal a scepter thing or a crown thing, whatever thing. I don't remember the exact ingredients. But that's Marks of Intrigue in a nutshell. The only point, one of the main points that you guys need to remember is that Radovan breaks the law. And being a cleric of St. Cuthbert's, he is stripped of his powers and brought out in disfavor of St. Cuthbert. And that is one of the things needed. Blood of a fallen cleric. That was one of the ingredients to resurrect this dead god. The result of this is we get into huge fuck-off fights. We have helped some dwarves in the past because one of their princes was like a were thing or something. I don't remember the exact details of that. They come to our rescue. We kill all the cultists and we stop the ritual from being completed. That is Marks of Intrigue in a nutshell. Also during this time, Kialiana stuck her wrist through a grated door where a bad person slit her wrist. She had a tendency to charm Radovan incessantly and force him with the charm spell to do what they want, which is not good and not in keeping of Cuthbert. That culminated in Radovan and me telling Kia and Jane to not do that anymore because, honestly, Radovan would have left Kia if she kept doing it. And to Jane's credit and Kia's credit, that stopped. But it was a definite first spot of friction amongst the party, where Radovan and Kia would have gone separate ways. And of course, that would have meant the ending of telling the story, so we all kind of had to agree that that was a point of no return, so not to cross it anymore, which was happened. Here we met the Nipster, who was trying to rape some farmers' daughters. I castrated him. We went to Scarrow, where the Mildwood family of the current campaign in Curse of Strahd is from, where Lord Yarnspinner was actually an imposter, the Lord Yarnspinner. The actual Lord Yarnspinner was murdered well long before, and the imposter Yarnspinner was one of the cultists. He went through the Fields of Sorrow to the Greyspire Mountains to find a hexabomb plant, one of the ingredients for the ritual, which we thought was going to save us from some of this enchanted tattoo on our body that was going to kill us. Radovan fell down a pit of spider webs and was set fire to. That was a good time. There was a lot of fun to be had. And Marks of Intrigue Howreroll's first foray into long-form, story-form content, D&D in particular, 3.5 edition. All the players were new. Obviously, Gorbad had years and years and years of experience. That goes without saying. There's something, you know, whatever. Yes, one of my favorite moments, Junk Farmer, was when Jane as Kia detected a presence in the sewer by detecting magic and happened upon someone just watching us in the sewers. That had to do with the Azure Hand. The Azure Hand, as far as I remember, are a bunch of basically thief collectors of magical artifacts or magical items. It was a good time. It was a good time. As you can see, this map is a little unimpressive. It was the first map done. I think Son of Joxer did all the maps. He's only gotten better and better. But this was like the first attempt at a map. This was the first map done. Gorbad obviously did some, this is what it is and this is how it is based on descriptions. Marks of Intrigue was a fun campaign with a M. Night Shyamalan twist, which apparently a lot of people in chat still say is one of their favorite campaigns ever. Whether it's because the players were new to D&D and we were getting used to the format of things, possible. It is one of my favorites too because it just has a warm memory for me. It was a lot of fun. I had a blast. Playing D&D 3.5 Cleric is one of the hardest classes to play in my opinion, because you have to be kind of super particular with things. And I kind of skirted the line with my character Radovan, who is a racist alcoholic looking for his dad, or you know, and relationships are forged, and a lifelong tabletop friendship happens. Yeah, Joxer did. Yeah. Anything else really worth talking about with Marks of Intrigue? It was the first time on Howreroll where we were learning what the viewers wanted to watch, and you can definitely tell. And I'm not just talking about like the audio quality or the webcam quality. I'm also talking about what we decide as during play is worth doing and what isn't. In Marks of Intrigue, when we went to cities, when we went to Corthan, and we went to shop for things, we roleplayed the entire shopping out. And it usually ended up being a full stream of us just shopping for gear. And we noticed the viewership started to dip. People didn't want to watch that shit. Because who wants to watch people shop in a D&D game? Also, who wants to shop in general? Let's be real. Shopping sucks, okay? So we stopped doing that. We also stopped doing what had moments, no doubt, where it's the end of the day and we're about to go to sleep, and we just role play around a fireplace drinking beer and shit. And it's just character interactions. Kia and Reza and Radovan, Kia and Radovan. And while there was role play in it, and it was good, it didn't move the story along. And we learned at those points people stopped paying attention in chat also. So Marks of Intrigue was a learning curve for us about what in D&D people enjoy and what they don't. And proof is in the pudding. One of the things people didn't like, cast especially, was riddles. Riddles and puzzles. It was after Marks of Intrigue and Dark Inquest where Gorbad said to us, I will not have a riddle or puzzle stump you or be necessary to progress the story. If anything, riddles and puzzles will be side quests, side objectives, side loot, if anything. Because, god damn it, riddles and puzzles suck. Because it's just us staring quietly, trying to figure it out, while anywhere from 30 to 100 people are judging you and being critical and saying things like, oh, I figured it out. Yeah, Sentinel, we learned for what we do on Howreroll, puzzles and riddles that slow play are not good. in many ways, we've gotten better as players and DMs and streamers to bring what people like. Of course, there is always that fear when we're doing our session that we are stretching it out too long. There have only been a few times in Howreroll history that Gorbad has messaged us as players privately and said things to the effect of, you guys need to move it the fuck along, you know? Only like twice in our entire time playing Howreroll has Gorbad said, what is this waffling? Do something. Do something. Case in point, Radovan and Marlowe would get in circular arguments in later campaigns, which just became a drag. And I have made conscious efforts after those moments to create characters that either would not fall for that or find a way out of it so we wouldn't be drug into it. That actually happened recently on one of the Thursday campaigns with Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, where my character was a halfling and Spook's character, who's a something, is a religious nut. We got into a circular argument about what to do next, and we felt the drag. Where after the show, I apologized, and Gorbad and all of us talked, and we were like, yeah, we're going to try to avoid that. Because, like, the last 40 minutes of this session was just you guys arguing in circles, which is a trap that we all kind of just fall into. And I'll be completely honest, when that happened, while it was happening, I was having fun, because my life is pretty drama-free right now. I don't have a lot of drama or fights or arguments in my real life, so it was kind of fun to be in an argument that is supposed to be playful and, you know, non-consequential, because it's a story in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. But Satch was affected by it. She didn't like it. And you could kind of tell by her, like, expression that the argument was going too long and too far. And Gorbad was kind of like, all right, well, this isn't going where I wanted to go. You guys are really arguing about how to do this differently. So I was at fault for not reading the room, because I was just having too much fun roleplay arguing. I love roleplay arguing. I love being able to roleplay a fight without actually being angry in real life. It's a lot of fun. But yes, that's Marks of Intrigue. Does anyone have any questions about Marks of Intrigue? I hope I was clear enough and it didn't take too long. Sentinel, is that a decent enough recap for you, by the way? Like, on what happens, how it happens, without getting super specific and super in-depth? Pretty much, we traveled to all these locations, by the way. The only other thing worth mentioning is that in either Epitomon or Reldon, some people were being held captive by authority figures that are evil from the cult, based on around the cult. And Rasa, I went like this to tell Rasa to shut someone up, and she slit his throat, which was not intended. I didn't actually want her to kill the person. I just wanted her to knock him out because she was behind him. And yeah, that was right before. That was pretty bad, but it made for a fun little moment between us as characters. Like, that's not what I want you to do. All right. So the next campaign was Dark Inquest. And the area map is down here. And just so you guys know, Candlewind is here. The rest of the story from the first campaign was up top. It's up here, but it's not filled in. And you can see the map that Joxer did is just all the places in this campaign that we did. Dark Inquest was a story about a demon named Warius. Marlo was not in the first campaign, by the way. She joined later. Warius was a demon that was responsible for spreading corruption throughout the lands. And the corruption had a tendency to mutate things to be monstrous. Much like you would think in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. We follow the characters of Veslar, my character, Piper, Bane's character, and Arya. a bard, which is Jane's character, as we attempt to deal with this corrupting influence. Veslar was a witch hunter, which is a custom class that Gorbad found in 3.5 edition. And it was... Think of witch hunters in this iteration as half fighters, half Templars in Dragon Age Origins, you know? Someone who is immune to magical effects or has a way to deal with it. Kind of like the Witcher character, the Geralt of Rivia or whatever, but a little bit more, like, focused on the fighter side than the witch hunter side. The witch hunter class had maybe like 3 or 4 levels of abilities that allowed him to attack mages and wizards and spellcasters, if nearby, deal extra damage to them and sap them of their magical prowess and magical power. Dark Inquest had a few interesting things to note. First off, Piper was a badass. Bane played a badass fighter who was a two-handed warrior. Veslar was a one-handed badass warrior with some witch hunter capabilities, and Arya was a bard who was the most annoying bard I've ever played with. Jane played Arya as this space-headed, annoying musical genius who got on Veslar's nerves. This was a... Whereas the first campaign, Marks of Intrigue, was a... kind of like a heist, a reverse heist, or no, a heist to a bad end. Dark Inquest was like a gothic horror scene, where you go to places and you see a cat, and the cat's a fucking mutant cat that can eat you. That's Dark Inquest's theme. The moon was purple throughout the entirety of the month or whatever that we traveled to these locations. Because Wirius was doing shitty things and corrupting the lands. In a larger scale story beat, the corrupting shit that Wirius was responsible for spreading, the demon, I think he's called the Demon Prince of Maleforia. I think that was his technical term. Is utilizing the corrupting shit that happened in Marks of Intrigue. When Marks of Intrigue culminated, part of the ritual, or the ritual was successful. I forget the specifics, but a lot of purple shit flew out of Marks of Intrigue's endgame. And that is the purple shit that this party is dealing with here. Strengthening the resolve of the formerly dead Chaos God that doesn't have a name, that we haven't discovered the name of yet, but there's a sneaking suspicion I know the name of it. Because it's all kind of tied together. But that was the campaign of Dark Inquest. Veslar hated children. I will say, from a character sense, Veslar was a virgin. He was a frustrated virgin. There was definitely Dragon Age Origins influence, where, you know, to become a witch hunter, you have to drink a concoction that could kill you. And another story beat is Piper was in love with Veslar, but she didn't know it yet. And she killed Veslar. Veslar died. Yes. Dark Inquest marked the first character death on Howreroll from the party. We're in a keep, in the middle of Direward Keep, right there, as you can see, right here, beautiful Direward Keep. We break into the keep, we kill a bunch of shit, we go down one of the towers, and we encounter a shade monster. And the shade monster, every time the shade attacked Veslar and hit Veslar, Veslar lost some strength. So we got weaker and weaker and weaker as the fight went on. It got to a point where Veslar told the women to get the fuck out of the tower to save themselves. And it was a suicidal thing that he did. until he realized that the Shade was not really being affected by his physical attacks, but was affected by a magical staff in their possession. This is not the magical staff used as a climbing rod. That was another magical staff, but yes. Veslar barely survived the encounter. And then, feeling he deserved his just desserts for being a hero and saving women and almost sacrificing himself, he wanted first grabs at the treasure that was in the keep, and it ended up being a mimic. And the mimic grabbed a hold of Veslar. Because Veslar was severely weakened because of his fight with the Shade, he couldn't break free from the sucking, sticky shit that the mimic had, and it started chomping on his arm. And Bane, as Piper, to save Veslar, tried to cut his arm off and get him free of the mimic. Now, if she had just killed the mimic, it would have had the same good effect. But she went for the arm of her friend and loved one, Veslar. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Out of character, behind the scenes, using BattleNets, because we used BattleNet to communicate back then, I told Bane to do it. And she responded, really? And I replied to her, abso-fucking-lutely cut his arm off. It's a moment I'm still super fucking proud of, by the way. Absolutely love that I said that and I did it. I was responsible for Veslar dying, not Bane. Any ire or hatred towards Bane, the player, and Piper, the character, is unfounded and unfair because it was all me. Yeah, we used BattleNet in the early years. We used Skype and BattleNet. Good times, good times. But yes, I told Bane to do it, and she didn't want to do it, and I told her to do it. And listen, I have many reasons why I allowed it to, I wanted it to be that way. First off, I thought it would just surprise chat. I was like, listen, for a moment, this is great. If you want to justify it in storytelling, it wouldn't make sense, personally, for you to kill a monster that has half of your friend in its gullet, right? Because you attack the monster, you still risk stabbing him anyway, right? So that's a story beat reason. Also, I wanted to, I just wanted to shake shit up, you know? That's kind of it. I thought for a story, it made for a great story. People can get mad at me all they want about this choice, this decision that I chose to do, but I would do it again in a heartbeat, because I love a good story, and it's a good damn story. Especially when Bane made Piper realize that she was in love with Veslar all along. It's just so tragic and so awesome. But also, Veslar was kind of a dick. And I'm glad that he died a virgin, because it just kind of fit. Oh, Ventrilo, yeah, we used Ventrilo too. Another case in point that was an epic moment that had nothing to do with me, so I'm being fair. Piper, Bane as Piper, killed a Babao demon in one of the coolest fights ever. A Babao demon came out of the mists, out of an abyss, and we were on the cusp of death, and she did an epic crit to fight a Babao demon. It's called a Babao demon. I will show you So this is a Babao demon, if you can see it. It is that was a 4th edition, but if you go to 3rd edition, it's a very cool demon. I didn't realize it had a challenge rating of 4. We must have fought it kind of relatively early. It's just cool. Oh, it's challenge rating of 6. That makes more sense. Because Dark Inquest was a low to mid-level campaign. So we were around challenge rating 6. And we were only 3 characters, so it balanced out. In 5th edition, they made a challenge rating of 4. Which kind of sucks. But, yeah. That's Mr. Babao. He was a minion of Wirius, the demon prince of Maleforia. Yeah, it was good times. A baboo demon. It's a demon that has like a jelly-like substance on its skin, which destroys equipment and hurts you. It's like an acidic thing, like an alien thing. Another thing that happened, I think, was there was an Ion Stone. If you don't know in D&D, an Ion Stone is a particular magical item that in D&D that swirls around you. There are different colored stones that mages and wizards use to like supplement their stats or abilities. There was one that Veslar threw into a pit, thinking it was responsible for the demonic forces at play. Chat loved me for that. Fucking threw a magical item down into an abyss? Well, it made sense for the character. That's why I did it. Hold on, I gotta sneeze. Another thing that was very funny is because Veslar died, there was a session, where I just watched, because I was dead, while Piper and Arya threw my character off the keep, because he's basically just jelly. They didn't know how to climb him down with him. They returned to the witch hunter, who was kind of like Veslar's mentor, and Gorbad gave me control of the mentor character, a higher level witch hunter, to fight the demon prince with Piper and Arya, so I could participate in the conclusion of the story. The fun thing about that's worth telling is that night Gorbad rolled horribly. He rolled like shit, and we pretty much saved our skins through many of the things that the demon prince could do, like summon more demons, like mind control and cause berserker rage where you attack your friends instead of the demon. Gorbad rolled horribly, and we rolled pretty well. Wirius, the demon, was a cakewalk for the party. And it's not because I was playing a higher level character at that point in time. So yeah, there's that. The other fun thing that happened this campaign, worth mentioning, is there was a rap battle. So there was a time when Bane had a vacation, which we called Banecations. She let us know ahead of time. So Gorbad in the story planned for the demon to kidnap her, Piper, and for the next couple sessions, Jane and I played, just us two, where we had to get an ingredient to go to the demon's domain to rescue Piper. And the premise was that they were going to do a rap battle. So Gorbad wrote a song that's a rap battle song, and Jane did for her side, for Arya. And it would make for a good rewatch, by the way, that episode. We left it to chat to vote to who won the rap battle. It was not an in-game choice of the DM or us as players. It was chat's job to vote. And what we did not tell chat was that their vote would be consequential to the remainder of the story. So chat ended up voting that Arya won the rap battle. And because of that, we got Piper back and could continue the story, retrieving other elements and, in our eventual final fight with the demon. Had chat voted for the demon winning the rap battle, Gorbad had a whole plan where all of us would be sent to the hell in D&D, one of the hells, and have to break out of it. As another like mini arc of the adventure. Obviously, we did not tell chat that this was the case because we didn't want to tarnish their votes. Because we know some people in chat would vote knowing a result would be what they wanted to see, whether they agreed with it or not. We tried our best to keep it as honest as possible for chat to vote how they actually thought the result was. And to be fair, I think Jane's rap was better anyway. I mean, Jane is more musically talented than Gorbad. Don't get me wrong, Gorbad's hella fucking talented. But, you know, it is what it is. And what's another event that happened during Dark Inquest? Anyone have any memories of this you can talk to? Or are we just talking about, like, chat? Junk. Dark Inquest was a fun, gothic horror campaign. It was. It was a good time. Yeah, you guys are, like, off in your own little fucking world. Any questions? Any memories? Anything you guys want to mention? Yeah, Tara, I know you're listening. I know you're listening. It's all good. It's all good. All good. Oh, yeah. So we vanquished the demon. The moon stopped being purple. We stopped the spread of purplish taint or corruption. And there's a spider on my fucking wall. I see you, spider. Oh, bitch. Gotcha. Well, I killed it, but it fell out of my neck. Alright. So it's by my feet somewhere on the floor. Fucking spider. You remember none of this? Yeah. All good. Now you do. This is Dark Inquest. Sentinel, if you enjoy gothic, dark, macabre, Strahd-esque content, Dark Inquest is the campaign for you. It's the most kind of fucked up of all the campaigns we've done on Howreroll. Was a tweet about a rap battle? Yes. Yeah. All right. The next campaign was Children of Jakar. As you can see, the Desert of Lanthan is over here, so the action takes place to the east of the first campaign. It marks the return of Radovan, Reza, and Kia, and this is the first time Spook joined the cast. Spook was a first-time joiner of the cast here, based on a suggestion of Gorbad. Gorbad knew Spook for longer than us. We never met him before. But here's a little behind the scene gossip. We wanted to include another player because at the time we were concerned about missing too many episodes, too many sessions. Bane had her Banecations. I think Jane at this point in time, her real life was kind of picking up in a certain way, so there was the greater chance for cast to miss out. And back then, we wanted very much to offset a cast member missing from the story by having a new cast member. So we brought Spook in so we could have Gorbad with us 4 as players under the notion that if someone was unable to make the episode the night, we could continue the story as 3 and still maintain the same numbers that we've been working with up until that point. Because as you can tell, Radovan, Reza, Kia, Veslar, Piper, Arya are 3 players each of those campaigns. Children of Jakar is, in every sense of the word, the most high fantasy campaign we've done on Howreroll. It started off very small, with like shields being stolen while on the trip. Children of Drakkar has everything to do with the Githzeri and the Githyanki. Basically, the Githyanki being ruled by Drakkar in the in these mountains up here. I forget the name of the mountains. Whatever. Is basically taking over. that's the story. It's a story of the Githyanki finding a foothold in the prime material plane and spreading throughout this area. Iridian, down here, is the capital of all of Arconas, with the king and a vizier and a prince. And the entire campaign is us starting over here, near we're traveling this way, I think, to travel to Iridian, and there's a bunch of side quests that we have to deal with, mysterious stuff, shipments going missing in Finnerton, traveling to Dardenweald, finally going to Wesley, to Iridian, and then learning that there's shit up north, Rockhelm, which will come and play later, the Scarblood tribe, which will also play in later, and Estarden, which is where the Githyanki are really setting up camp and threatening all of Iridian and Arconas. Along the way, several events occurred, some out of character, some in character, worth mentioning. But that is the overarching story, is us ultimately going into a gigantic battle versus the Drakkar and his minions of Githyanki versus what's left of the Iridian army and all these other people around, with us leading the charge. It returns to Radovan, Race, and Kia, which have a stronger bond at this point. Marlowe joins as a person captured by an orc. I think actually why we are here in this area has everything to do with a particular orc, which was responsible for Kia's woes, I think. Something to that effect. Marlowe is a monk character who's an outsider, kind of a loner, not very team player friendly. And Spook, whether intentionally or not, masterfully played that way. So there was a lot of like butting heads in the party because Radovan and her specifically differed vastly on how to solve problems and deal with issues. Spook as Marlowe tended to go solo bolo and get in a whole heap of trouble. Highlights. Radovan gives his Shield of the Sun to the Githzeri, which is an offshoot faction of the Githyanki. If you've ever played Dragon Age, Baldur's Gate 3, kind of get that. As a show of support, as a show of trust. So people were like, why would you give your shield to these strange aliens anyway? He did. Marlowe met a couple unfortunate ends during this campaign, or at least one of them. She got into trouble at a seedy little tavern outside Iridian, where she was alone and didn't tell the rest of the party that she was going there. She realized very quickly that she could get killed in 2 turns, masterfully found a way to escape, then later got crushed to death by a giant crab. A giant crab grabbed her, and Spook unfortunately forgot that Marlowe could shadow step, basically, and died because of it. So Radovan had to revive her. So that happens. Another thing that happened worth mentioning. God, I'm trying to remember all the details. In the final battle, it was an epic battle where Drakkar and his Githyanki had a couple of red dragons, and the Scarblood tribe, which you can see over here, the Scarblood tribe was basically barbarians. The Scarbloods were where Tolgar's from in the later campaigns. Jane created a Tolgar character that is a Scarblood tribe survivor. So that was pretty cool. Rockhelm comes to play later on in the final Radovan Kia Marlowe chapter or campaign, which we'll get to, where heroes of the war, the 3 are sent to Rockhelm to basically bolster this section. The whole northern part of this map became decimated because of the war, and Radovan, Kia, and Marlowe are sent as lords and ladies to revive it. And then they get sent further north because other shit happens in that campaign, which I'll get to in a minute. Iridian had a king. Magic is tightly controlled, not really much allowed. There's a vizier, which the women absolutely fucking hated during that campaign, even though the vizier was doing nothing wrong. There was like an inherent suspicion on the vizier, which was pretty funny. I think his name was Tadros, but don't get me, I might be wrong on that name. Yeah. Yeah, the king had some gemstones, which allowed me... Oh, Marlowe inadvertently became champion of an arena as a gladiator. She kicked the ass of everybody that was thrown at her, and then made the mistake of punching some noble guy in the face for being rightfully rude to her, because she's a fucking... he's a noble and she wasn't. Marlowe died, had to be brought back. Other stuff happens. Other stuff happens, for sure. Try to remember all the details. Does anyone have any other thing to mark about it? If you want, like, really epic fantasy, this is the story for you. The final battle took place, I forget where. It's like the Plains of Iridian or something. There was a staging area in Tannerton, and I think, like, the fight happened somewhere else. Gampy, on Monday, Seth Mildwood fought with his father, who was a retired war hero from this war. One of the men in this war. We try our hardest to, like, interconnect everything. So that's an interconnection there. The king gave Radovan, Reza, and Kia, gave everyone special kind of a placement, you know? Yeah. Also, Reza is a bastard of the king who had an extramarital affair with an elf queen in one of these areas, which and so she has a secret shame of her royalty, kind of like Alistair in Dragon Age, by the way. So yeah. So Reza, I think after this campaign, Bane stopped playing Reza. So where Reza is now is, I guess, kind of around Iridian, whereas Kia, Marlowe, and Radovan were given lord titles and celebrated. They're heroes, basically. Alistair's death count is like 1 million. Oh, yeah. There was an acid bath incident where Kia wanted to take a bath at one of the taverns, but the water was replaced with acid, and it was Reza, played by Bane, who had to save her. And every turn, Kia was taking a shit ton of damage, and being a sorceress, she didn't have a lot of health in 3.5, and there we go. She almost died. It was quite a fucky moment. Yeah, Prepper. Yeah. Was Reza the intended sacrifice for Marks of Intrigue? I don't remember that, but I'll take your word for it. In the final battle, I would just let you guys know, Radovan was supposed to do this thing called the Forlorn Hope. And the point of the Forlorn Hope was basically a suicidal run. He was supposed to lead a group of the king's army into the fray of the battle. He made himself very large, like a giant, with his spells, and he covered himself in defensive magics like crazy. I want you guys to know that in D&D 3.5, you can get boosts to your armor class so long as they are considered different types of a boost. So there are things called deflection bonus and hardened skin bone. I mean, there's different words that spells attribute that allow him to boost himself. So Radovan in the final battle blew himself up into a giant, made himself impossible to hit with extra health points, extra buffer, damage reduction out the ass, and he, with an army of men, charged the middle of the field to occupy the middle of the field. The intention being, don't let the middle of the field get to the king and the back flank. The Forlorn Hope kind of didn't work because the prince had a cavalry unit that kind of charged before the Forlorn Hope did. And the prince's unit for the king, which I actually forget the name of, the king and the prince, clashed with the Scarblood tribe, who were also on horseback, the barbarian tribe. And the prince actually fell in battle, by the way. The dragons, there was an ancient dragon and a younger dragon. Marlowe got on top of one of the dragons and basically punched it into the ground. Pretty fucking epic, if you ask me. Well done, Spook and Marlowe. Kia turned invisible and flew over the battlefield to destroy the Drakkar siege weaponry. She used her spells to destroy the siege equipment, the catapults, the trebuchets. And Reza, as played by Bane, went invisible, or did some of her rogue shit, and assassinated some of the commanders on the battlefields, as well as Drakkar himself, in one of the most epic rolls of the night. That session was a 6-hour session of a war. She went extraplanar with a horse. That's right. Thank you, Prepper. She had a horse that made her go extraplanar. She cut Drakkar's throat with a poison dagger, and Drakkar had to roll like a 3 or higher to pass the poison check, and Gorbad rolled a 2. I think it was a 2. I don't think it was a crit failure, but if it was a crit failure, it was fucking epic. And Drakkar just died. Like, it was supposed to be one of the big fights, and it was just over. That was really fucking cool. So that was the war. That was how everyone kind of participated in said war. It was pretty fucking epic. The last 3 episodes of the Children of Drakkar are worth watching, just on their own, because there are some great character moments, and there are great heroic, epic fantasy moments. There was a mistake I made during this war, which is often referenced and made fun of, and that is the Windwall incident. Sentinel Shaggit made a mistake, and he misread a spell, and essentially wasted a turn. In the scheme of like the war, Radovan did the least, but that wasn't his purpose. His purpose was to just be a beacon of hope on the battlefield that everyone else could see, so they could be motivated to keep fighting. And I succeeded in that purpose. There was a Windwall spell that I thought would buffer the enemies that were surrounding me for rounds. I misread that it only really affected ranged arrows going for me, which was not the problem. It was the people. I was surrounded by Gith Yankees, basically. Every round I endured 8 attacks because I was surrounded on all sides. And because of my defensive spells and my giganticism, I fucking survived everything. The only other thing really worth mentioning in this campaign was that Radovan multiclassed. He was a cleric of St. Cuthbert, but I prestiged, not multiclass, I prestiged into a War Priest, which is a prestige class in 3.5. And that was Children of Drakkar. The Drakkar Yankee fighting for a foothold in Arconas, decimating the northern parts of the kingdom. Radovan, Kia, Reza, and Marlowe allied with the Githzeri and the king and the troops, and fought a major battle and was successful. Anyone have any questions about Children of Drakkar? To answer your question, that's the wrong one. So War Priest. It's always been described to me, Sentinel, that a paladin is more a fighter than a religious person, although they have religious stuff, and a cleric is more a priest than a fighter. A war priest is kind of the in between. You start getting your hit die goes up by 2. You get specials per level that are kind of interesting, like Inflame and Rally, and a Mass Cure Light spell, and a Fear Aura. You can lay down a Hero's Feast, have a haste spell attached to it, Mass Heal. It's basically just like a slightly more powerful. It turns the cleric into more of a fighter paladin type, basically. Yeah. Long and short of it. As you can see, the area map is for Wrath of the Fallen is back to this map, and that's because we on Howreroll, coming up with these new these new adventures, decided we had returned to our flagship characters of Radovan, Race, and Kia for Children of Jakar. Now is the time to be in a familiar location, but with new characters. And Wrath of the Fallen was our first foray into D&D 5th edition, by the way. Everything preceding this was 3.5. So this was a 5e campaign, where these were 3.5. Obviously with some homebrews. Wrath of the Fallen was our attempt and our desire to play evil characters, but we wanted to play evil characters right. We wanted to do evil characters justice. Emlyn is a warlock, Tolgar is a barbarian, and Lilith is a slut. yeah, Prepper, I didn't mean multiclass, I meant prestige. Well, Liv wasn't here, right? Was Liv at the beginning, during Wrath? I think Liv came in later on. No, or was Liv here? You're right, Liv was here. Yes, Liv. Thank you. Yes, played by Dystress. I honestly, forgot. Which is dumb, because I could just go here and see for myself. This website needs a lot of work, but Amlin, Tolgar, Lilith, and Olivia. Yeah. So, we added, Bane... Right? Bane needed to take a break. And, so we replaced her with Liv, played by Dystress. I gotta be really diplomatic here. With all love. We meet the characters as they're traveling overseas to a prison island, where magic is suppressed and evil's supposed to rot. An event occurs where basically the boat crashes or gets destroyed or something. I don't remember. I'm not going to go into too many details. And the party of 4 escape the prison ship, bound for the prison island, and travel first to Candlewind. Let's just say there was drama behind the scenes. Play styles kind of clashed. And Dystress, who's a perfectly awesome person, very nice in her own right, she's very nice. She didn't exactly play the way that we played. Her background was more a narrative format. You might see these D&D channels where people sit and go into very deep inner monologues of thoughts and feelings and reactions to. And the Dungeon Master is more of a novelty in those games. It's the kind of game that you could see on Twitch where a person says, I open the door and I see the smoky inside of the tavern. I think to myself, who's interesting? Who's worth talking to? And who should I avoid? I walk across the room and I see this little halfling sitting there drinking a thimble of fucking whiskey. And I approach him and I go, how you doing? Right? That is narrative play. Whereas our play style is Gorbet says, you enter the tavern, it's smoky, there's people all around, what do? And we say, I go to the counter and buy a beer. I find a table to sit with my party. I look for the person that I can exploit and steal from. You see how it's different? It doesn't quite work for the way we play around Howreroll because we don't want to assume something's there that Gorbet doesn't want to be there, right? We have a relationship with Gorbet as a dungeon master to inform us where we need to be informed and to only speak to what we intend, what we choose to do, or what we say. The narrative format is more about a collaborative filling the collective situation where the dungeon master sprinkles what he wants, or she wants, but otherwise lets you do what you want to do, you know? In the narrative format, you're more likely to say something to, I see a person in the corner and I go to him and I ask for the time, and he says, I don't have a watch, this is medieval fucking world, we don't have watches. So I punch him in the face and he cries out the wall, he cries away. Now, that could be all well and good, but what if that person that this character approaches to ask for the time is an important character that the dungeon master intends for a quest to be given or information to be dispelled? I just railroaded the dungeon master in our own narrative storytelling. You see why it's different, like a different style? So that was one of the main problems with this conflict between the styles, where we had been playing for several years together at this point, and Deistress was nice enough to join us and be a part of us, but also wanted to investigate everything. And I think it would have been a better mesh if we weren't playing evil characters. There was a moment very early on where Liv, as the druid, was carving a baby rattle into the boats of the dinghy that we stole from the sinking ship to escape prison. And Jane, as Tolgar, said, stop making holes in my fucking boat. Now, that makes sense. It makes sense. Deistress was trying to invoke a conversation to get at the motivations. Because Liv wanted to find her child. Everyone else on the boat wanted revenge. Everyone wanted revenge. The premise of this campaign, Wrath of the Fallen, was to get power and get revenge on people who fucked us over and wronged us. Right? And Liv's character was, I need to find my child because someone took my child and I got wronged and screwed out of custody and this evil bastard threw me in jail. I want my child. Well, she was a chaotic something, right? Everyone was evil and had different ranges of their evilness. Liv, not so much. Um. So, we go to Kanduin. My character, Emlyn Sin, is an asexual tiefling warlock of a chaos god called Azamiathon. Azamiathon, basically. Azamiathon. And I personally believe that Azamiathon is the dead god that the cults resurrected or tried to resurrect in Marks of Intrigue. That is my, as a player, assumption. Gorbad never confirmed it. He has never said that that's definitely a link. But he has basically said the pantheon of gods in Arconas and in this world is such that you could be of a different culture worshipping the same god and not realizing it. It's like a god puts on different faces. It all kind of lines up in my eyes that Warlock Emlyn Sin wants to bring back his dead god because he's a warlock of an old one, a great old one. That's his patron or whatever. Emlyn wanted to get revenge on a wizard in Corthan called Porthan de Wint, which we did meet before in Marks of Intrigue, because we were in Corthan in Marks of Intrigue. We start out in Kanduin and we travel up north. And the fun part is we get to encounter the city or scenes of our other characters. I remember going to Saruman, and Radovan as an NPC was there because he was visiting after the war. That's the fun part about the Wrath of the Fallen. I know it says Marks of Intrigue, but it's Wrath of the Fallen. Liv wanted to find her baby data, her baby child. Tolgar, Jane, wanted to return to her tribe, the Scarbloods, which were decimated in the war, Children of Drakkar War, and rebolster them. And there's an ulterior motive there where someone had taken over that tribe that didn't belong, and Tolgar was like, I belong. And Lilith, Spook's character, was a worshipper of Malkanthet, which is a succubus god. Basically, she's a whore. It's true. It's not like, well, there's a slut, okay? The overarching story is getting revenge. The main story beat is that there's, in Corthan, the city of Corthan, there is a council in charge. There's not a king. It's like a council ruling over everything. And half of the council is evil and are the ones responsible for some of the fuckery that happened to the party. So the main quest of this game, Wrath of the Fallen, is to enact revenge on the council of Corthan. The party is ultimately successful. Porthan de Wint is not a part of this revenge scheme. Emlyn's story kind of goes to later on. Liv drove. So the only other thing I'll say about this campaign is there were moments where Dystress as Liv did things that kind of screwed us over as a party. Which made for very stressful behind-the-scenes conversations. Because we had to find a way out of the problems that her character caused. Because we were trying to showcase an evil campaign. God damn mosquito! I see you. Come down. Oh, I just missed it. Alright, anyway. It really made for some interesting behind-the-scenes panic, where we would have conversations after a session where something happened, going like, how the hell are we going to get out of this shit? Because it kind of screwed up our entire situation. We wanted to play evil in a unique way. We didn't want to come across as murder hobos, but we wanted to showcase that evil people do evil things when necessary, but otherwise try to assimilate as best they can. They don't want to bring attention to themselves. They don't want to showcase their evilness just willy-nilly out the gate. And Liv's character, as a character, kind of just did shit that messed with us. Case in point, we were getting information from someone who was spying on us outside of a hotel or motel or an inn or whatever, the room we were staying at. And Liv turned into a tiger and bit her throat out and killed this person when we were still interrogating her, this person. Was it her or he? I don't remember. And the death screams made us wanted by the cops in the place because we committed a murder in a public place. Liv wanted to break into a ship that saved us from being lost at sea because it was a locked door. And she wanted to see what was behind the locked door. And if the crew caught us, we would just be thrown overboard. Another instance. During the final fights, she spent the entire final fights killing and healing the person she wants revenge on. She would kill him, heal him, and then say, "Where's my baby?" And then he said, "I would never tell you." So she'd kill him and then heal him. All while Tolgar and Amlin are trying to fucking kill everything else. There was bounty hunters in this campaign. Very cool bounty hunters, by the way. Rashane, if you remember the name, please write it, because I forgot. But he was a great bounty hunter that had kind of a werewolf element to him. Midgard, there you go. Midgard, thank you. He comes into it later on, but he's hunting us. There was a section where we go to Lilith's Spook's whorehouse, and it's overrun by coked up goblins, coked up kobolds. And there's we cleanse that, but then we have to deal with Midgard and his lackeys who are outside, so we set booby traps. Damn it, I missed again. Almost. I feel like I'm getting bit. But yeah, that is essentially Wrath of the Fallen. It was a campaign that took place between levels 3 and like 10-ish. And it was a lot of fun. It was a good time. There was a lot of like kind of fun callbacks or revisiting of Marks of Intrigue areas, and Gorbad got to showcase how they kind of changed or got better or worse or whatever. But that was basically Wrath of the Fallen. Mindenbrook's Sorrow had new characters with a new location with a very particular purpose. It had Asher Kier, I played. It had Cordelia Norn, Spook. And it had Lyra Grand, Jane. And it had Alemi, Bane. I will state, yes, Tolgar discovered toilets. I think in Wrath. I mean, I think in the first campaign he discovered toilets. Yeah, so the main premise, as you can see, the map just gets a glow up. Joxer is just amazing. As you can see, it takes place in Mindenbrook, far to the west, or to the east of Children of Jakar. But you can see the entire map kind of all fleshed in, like all the points. Even if you go down, you can, you can see some of the locations, Iridian and stuff. But it took place entirely in Mindenbrook. And we wanted to do a story. You can't see it because my face is over it. We wanted to do a story that took place in one region. We didn't want to have an epic, sweeping, go-everywhere campaign. Mindenbrook was a home to Cordelia, Spook's character, and Asher's character. And its main story was about a vampire lord, basically. There were 3 locations, a forest, some river, and a lake. That was the location of exploration. Mindenbrook was under a lot of problems because strange shit was happening. Basically, a desert was forming where there shouldn't be a desert. Desert animals and monsters and creatures were slowly leaking out into the surrounding fields. Mindenbrook was an undefended, very few people defended it. So our party kind of took over, and the purpose was to build up a town and shore up the defenses while solving the problem. Kia Liana made a cameo. She showed up and was looking for Radovan, which sent her west to Rockhelm, which was a later on adventure. And yeah, Mindenbrook was really just about ensuring the safety of the town, the village, and dealing with a vampire lord that was kind of fucking with everything. Yep, there's a ziggurat. There was a ziggurat. There was jackals that Moonbeam removed their shape-shifting, and you found out that the jackals were actually children, kidnapped children, morphed into these jackal creatures. There was undead, there was scorpions, there were snakes, there were scarabs, there was very Egyptian-esque themes. Yeah, Jane flipped her shit when Kia made her cameo, which is a lot of fun. It was a very strange campaign to play because we didn't want to travel too far. We would return to the same location time and time again, and there would be some changes, like, oh, the sand, encroachment went further. How to go through the creatures that were infesting the floor. There was a lot of that kind of problem solving, building a wall around Mindenbrook, making sure that the history is retained, making sure the other villages there with this creepy old house mansion that the burger used to use was kind of desolate. It was a mark of one of the favorite characters on Howreroll, which was played by Jane, which is awesome. That's Lyra Granz, and she makes a return later on, by the way. It was a character. Asher was my character. He was a former King's Guard in Iridian. He was an Eldritch Knight, and he was there when Raisa, Marlowe, Radovan, and Kia almost, saved against Drakkar. He was one of the city guards that got spoken to in a kind of cross way by the women of that party, of that campaign. I intentionally made him to be kind of a pacifist in terms of he's not a leader, he's a follower. Give him orders. Cordelia, played by Spook, was supposed to be the leader of this party. I intentionally made Asher to not fight, not butt heads with Spook, because I didn't want a repeat of the same story of the players clashing with each other. What ended up happening, though, is Cordelia and Spook kind of had a mid-life crisis where I think Spook didn't feel Cordelia was turning out the way she intended. Cordelia is a priestess of Eastus, right? Which is about fate and the interconnectivity of things. And I think Spook intended Cordelia to have visions or dreams of past lives that she could then use to inform her. By the way, Cordelia's character sheet is stacked. We roll all our shits, and she rolled like a monster. As you can see, strength of 14, dexterity of 17, constitution of 16, intelligence of 15, wisdom of 18, and charisma of 18. These are rolled stats that ended up, holy shit, that is a character. But what ended up fucking happening is because Cordelia kind of had a midlife crisis about what was really the right thing to do in terms of fate, and what was being thrust upon them and wasn't fair. she kind of, as a character, Cordelia kind of became a doomer. Like, oh, the world's coming to an end. This is all fucked up. What can we do? So in a roundabout, strange way, Lyra Gand, Jane's character, who is very much so a liar in every sense of the word, a con artist, and Asher kind of had to carry the leadership mantle. We did it kind of together, in tandem. We deferred to each other, and we obviously deferred to the entire party, the entire cast, but unofficially, Asher and Lyra took over. That was supposed to be what Cordelia Norn was to do, but the roleplay and its organicness kind of stopped that from being the case. It was very weird when Asher was fighting on the side of fate to Cordelia, who was saying it was hopeless. It was very, very weird. It was very, very, very weird. Very, very weird. Yes, this did have the You're Welcome parody. Thank you, Shane. Crisis of Faith and Redemption. Her redemption was kind of not... I don't really remember her redemption being super impactful, but yes. And also, Bane played Alemi, and just a little behind the scenes, this was the last time Bane played on Howreroll. And you can kind of see that the, it's a little different. Bane was going through some real-life stuff. Nothing wrong, nothing to fault. This was a 5th edition campaign, and I believe Bane was a little overwhelmed. She had joined us under 3.5, and we had swapped kind of back and forth. So she wasn't having as much fun as we wanted her to have, and I think she wanted to have. So it ended up being her last campaign with us on Howreroll. There was a moment where we, as a party, entered a layer of cultists that required you to drink a particular potion to pass through the magical gateway, protecting them from intruders. And Bane made a decision to not participate in this dungeon crawl. It was a couple sessions of literally 3 of us struggling to survive while fighting all these cultists, while Bane did nothing. Which is never something you want to see, because you want the party to stick together, but you also want people to participate. Her rationale for not entering the cult layer had some basis in, like, I could see why your character would think this, but the player in you would kind of have to go, but I'm missing out. I'm, like, excusing myself from the story for a reason that doesn't have to be a reason, but I made it a reason, if that makes sense. Yeah, so Bane had a spell cast on her, Alemi, which was like a Gaius quest, a compulsion, and it wasn't Cordelia. It was the enemy cultist, like the head cultist, kind of escaped and cast a thing where if she didn't count a particular thing in a particular day, she hurt herself. Bane was absent quite a bit. Like, the writing was on the wall that, as a player, Bane needed a break or needed to split ways. She was out of character, behind the scenes, overwhelmed by the system of 5e. She wasn't comfortable with it. And it kind of stopped her from wanting to learn the ropes of the mechanics. And it was unfortunate, and, we love Bane, but she wanted out. So we let her go. I mean, we said, okay, you can go. Kind of sad because she dropped off the face of the earth for us. Like, we haven't really heard anything from her ever since. And it kind of sucks because she was so integral to the beginning, and we loved her. Loved her. Absolutely. But that was Mindenberg Sorrow. It culminated in the pyramid of the vampire lord, I forget his name too. It's like Nazrim or Nazamin Amana or Huchimama or Shellacking, or I don't remember. One of you guys might remember. And basically it ended as Lyra, the con artist liar of the campaign, did a sacrificial heroic play and basically activated the pyramid or the temple or whatever you want to call it with the vampire lord to go back to Erosia, which is Erosia was another continent on this world that Arconas is a part of. It was a sacrifice play, and it was pretty fucking cool that Jane as Lyra did that. Lord Neffin! There we go. Thank you, Shane. Thank you. So glad you're here, Shane. Eastus is the god of fates, of the weave of things, cause and effect. Yeah, it was a pretty epic end to the Mindenbrook Sorrow campaign. Mindenbrook Sorrow is a weird campaign because it's the first time on Howreroll we really tried to be a self-contained story. Mindenbrook itself was built by Gorbed and Chat. Chat took suggestions from Cass in some off streams that are not on Howreroll's YouTube, basically to flesh out the characters and the stories and the lives. So it was a really like meted down story, which is kind of the point, because we already did Children of Jakar, which was epic. We did Wrath of the Fallen, which revisited old locations. We wanted a new location with the premise being Chat helped make it, and the characters that the players played had roots in Mindenbrook. It was not an alien village we just stumbled upon. Asher had us mother there, and Cordelia was from there. Lyra was on the run from thieving something from there, and Alemi was a paladin of the ancients. So she sensed something was wrong, and that's why she answered the call. You never want to be an orphan in one of Gorbet's games. True. Yeah, Sentinel. Cool. Yeah, Mindenbrook Sorrow is a pretty cool campaign. In the end of things, it was a lot of fun. So that's Mindenbrook Sorrow. Alright. Mists of Cairnmore. Mists of Cairnmore saw the return of Kia Liana, Radovan Rainier, and Marlowe. Since Bane is no longer with us, it's just a party of 3 again. It is the third of the 3 epic campaigns of the flagship, quote-unquote, characters, which is really just Radovan and Kia, because Race is gone, and Marlowe came in a second of the 3. As you can see, the area map is north. So, down here at the very, very itty-bitty bottom is Rockhelm, and the mountains, and the Starden Ruins, and the Githzerik Citadel, and the Scarblood tribes, and the Harnsblood tribes. And here's Epitomon, and Relden, and Skeldergate from Marks of Intrigue, and Wrath of the Fallen. We're north of there, to the Cairnmore Mountains. The story here is simple. Radovan, Kia, and Marlowe are sent to Rockhelm to shore up that zone after the war, which is decimated. They are there as lords and ladies to make sure life goes on in a good way. Because Rockhelm was completely taken over by the Yankee, and shit happens. They get approached by this guy named Beecham. And Beecham says the north is going to invade Iridian and the south. Because there are a couple different factions in the north. There's a Jarl, which is, I think, was he in Bragos? I don't actually remember. This is one I remember. But there's a Jarl and a bunch of raiders, basically like Norse Viking guys. There's mountain dwarves and hill dwarves. And the hill dwarves are like, alright, and the mountain dwarves are like, leave me the fuck alone. And the Jarl in the north is sending out war parties and slowly taking over the northern sections for gold and wealth and loot and booty and all that stuff. And Beecham comes and says, listen, we need to stop the north from coming south, because eventually, with the south so fucked up because of the war with the Githyanki, the northern Jarl and his guys are going to come south and fuck over you guys. So we are sent northward to stop that threat. Yeah, Viking reasons. It is a high-level campaign. Radovan, Marlowe, and Kia, although Marlowe less extent because she died. Are basically kind of sent there on their own volition because it's a problem that needs to be solved. And it's a problem that they don't want the king and Iridian and the kingdom to the south to have to deal with. So they go to the north. And along the north, there's a lot of things that happen. It's a pretty epic high-level campaign. There's high winds. It's fucking freezing, so Radovan can't take his special armor that he has with him. It's cold and with high winds, so Kia can't fly around and just zap things from above because she'll get buffeted about by the weather. We deal with tribes. We deal with Dwarga runes. We deal with the dwarves. We deal with the dwarf problems. We find a cairn or a tag or whatever you want to call it that has lost wealth to the dwarves, and we use some of that lost wealth to pay off the Jarl to not invade to the south. That's the culmination of that story. Marlowe dies again. She's brought back again. Beecham betrays us. Radovan proposes to Kia, doesn't get an answer. That's essentially the Mists of Cairn War. So Beecham betrayed us for a particular piece of treasure, which is a Ring of Wishes, which I think only had one wish left. The rest of the gold of that lost treasure was returned, most of it to the dwarves, with some of it to the Jarl to pay him off. It was a lot of fun. It was a fun campaign. Honestly, there's not a lot I remember about it too, but I do remember absolutely loving the combat. It's high-level combat where there's a lot of like strategy and tactics you kind of had to bring to the table, because it's not just you stand in front of your opponent and beat each other up. There's a lot of dynamic shit going on. Beecham had a rod in his pants. He had a rod in his pants that allowed access to the lost treasure. But he needed the party to get to the treasure so he could take the ring and run away. The thing is, there was a spell that Radovan cast on a fucking ugly-ass statue, a cat statue with gemstones on it, that if broken would teleport you to a familiar place. And Radovan gave it to Beecham because he said, listen, if things get dire and you're going to die, we're all dead and you're about to, get out of here. Because Radovan's a good guy. Beecham used this to escape after stealing the Ring of Wishes. It was one of my favorite moments was having that statue explaining what the magic spell did, and then, like I was going to give it to Kia, but I was actually going to give it to Beecham. And then he betrayed us with it. Good times. Some things to note. We encounter the Lady in White. The Lady in White is a mystical, mysterious person that has peppered herself throughout these stories, and is basically like not a god, but like a step down, like maybe a demigod. And she wants to set everyone on a good path for the future, and we could use that. I think she made an appearance in this campaign. I know for a fact she made an appearance in the previous campaign, where we also fought a Krampus, by the way, so it is what it is. I didn't mention that, but there were some really good moments in this campaign. I wish I could tell you more specifics, But honestly, I don't fully remember the specifics. I just remember absolutely loving this campaign. Beecham was a blast. The world that we got to was awesome. The fights we had were epic. Like, epic. Kind of like mini versions of the major war. But because we were higher level, we could do more things. And at the end of the day, we saved the North and we saved the South. Prepper, okay, well that's debatable. I only rescinded because it was a lost treasure for the dwarves, and I didn't want to piss off the dwarves by saying, oh, by the way, we gave some of the gold away. But that ended up not being an issue, because the dwarves were like, I don't care, you found it, and we got the lion's share of it, so I'm happy. But the only reason why I became reticent to Beecham and my promise was that it was actually something that could be claimed by the mountain dwarves in Carvarak. You know? It's like, oh shit, well, maybe we shouldn't. The North remembers. Yeah. So the Mists of Karamor was pretty fun. I can give you a taste of the character sheets of Radovan specifically, because, you know, at this point, he is 36 years old, so he's a middle-aged person. So his strength, dexterity, and con goes down by 1 each, and his intelligence, wisdom, and charisma goes up by 1 each. Hence the odd numbers. He has 101 total health points with an armor class of 18. He had less armor class here because he had to take lighter armor because the heavy plate armor was too heavy for the North because of the frozen lands. Didn't make sense. Plus 12 fortitude save, 3 reflex save, and 12 wisdom save. His base attack bonus is 13, which basically gives him, I think, 3 attacks at this point. Yeah. Endurance, Negotiator, Die Hard, Tower Shield Proficiency, Extend Magic, Meta Magic, Combat Casting, Leadership. Yeah, he had a chain shirt. His Law Domain and Strength Domain, we added the Glory Domain. That was with the multi-class. You can't see his spells here, but they're pretty fucking expansive. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. I wasn't gonna fill this shit out with like all the spells because it's on the character sheet. There's a lot, you know. And it was a fun little campaign. I think we ended up level 17, by the way. So he's a level 11 cleric, level 6 war priest. Yeah. Wait, that's a thing in D&D, or is that homebrew? No. You get domain spells too in 3.5. Yeah, this was a return to 3.5. So 3.5, 3.5, 3.5. Marks of Intrigue, Dark Inquest, Children of the Car, 3.5. Wrath of the Fallen, 5th edition. Mindenberg Sorrow, 5th edition. Mists of Karamor, back to 3.5. Oh yeah, that's a 3.5 thing. In D&D 3.5, your age affects your stats. The older you get, the weaker you get in physical stats, and the stronger you get in mental stats. 35 is a breakpoint. 35, I think, age of 35 is a middle-age breakpoint, and then later on, it's like age 60 or something, 65. It gets more severe. But that was Mists of Karamor in a nutshell. If anyone remembers anything else from that, now's the time to say it. Pretty cool shit. This is a lot of fun. Yeah, it's been a while. But there you go, Sentinel. Okay. So now we get to Beneath the Veil. And Beneath the Veil is a self-contained story that takes place on another continent. The broader context is there a map on this website that actually shows everything? I don't honestly remember. I think, is it? Yeah, the maps kind of stopped after a while. All right, so we'll just move on. So Beneath the Veil is a self-contained story on a new continent, and the idea of the story is simple. Sidoria takes place far to the north and far to the west of Arconas itself. So if you get Arconas with the north and, Iridian down here, Sidoria is far this way. It's off. And it has gunpowder, which is a special novelty. It has blimps. Flying monstrosity. Blimps. And the premise is simple. Cardrill, Azumire, Spheros, Ventus, and Gal Summit are cities that sit atop mountains. And the idea is, that's where civilization is on this entire continent. Everything beneath the veil of this continent is barbaric, untamed, dangerous. It was alluded to us that the orcs in Sidoria down underneath the clouds, under the mountains, on the lands, are much hardier than their counterparts on Arconas. The whole idea of this campaign was to do kind of a more hardcore storytelling, where one of the blimps holding a royal daughter, I believe it was some daughter, crashed beneath the veil, and a team of adventurers were hired to go underneath the clouds to the wildlands to find this crashed ship and rescue any potential survivors. We had a near TPK. That happens. The first set of characters that created, most of them died in one of the first major fights beneath the veil. We had bad rolls, we had bad action economy, and the enemy was a little bit hardier than intended or wanted. So, Meredith Smith, Rush Brinkery, Jash Windstriker, Physic Weingarten, and Daleth Narim was the party that eventually was the party we played. The first party was Amelia Page by Jane, Danyon Normington V by Mats, Nudnik Lamont by me. All three of these characters died. The TPK happened, I think, in episode like 5 or 6, Prepper. So this was 3.5. We returned to 3.5. And this was the first campaign that Matt joined on Howreroll. It was his first campaign. And he played Danyon Normington V. And then he died. And Jane played Amelia Page, a kind of like fighter with a net and a harpoon, and then she died. And I played Nudnik Lamont, a melee ranger, who then died. Yes, so Satch joined us. Oh, this was this Satch's first game too? Satch played Physic Weingarten, a druid, a gnome druid. I played Daleth, which was a human fighter, but was a ranged fighter. He had a gun, so we wanted to introduce guns to Howreroll, but do it in such a way that it was kind of not good. Like, had some serious drawbacks, but it was still a lot of fun. Jash Windstriker was a fighter rogue, And he got mind controlled a lot. He lost control of his character quite a bit as Jash, which was a point of frustration for poor old Matt, Mr. Snuggler. Rush was played by Spook, who was a sorcerer named Rush, and she had a little fuck weasel, a little mechanical weasel, magically brought to life. That was her familiar in 3.5. And Jane decided to play Marigold Smith, a human cleric. So, a couple things to note. This campaign ended up being kind of the opening salvo to the God War storyline. Everything preceding this still kind of worked, and there were still clues scattered through the earlier campaigns in question, but this was the first time a God War was kind of suggested as the main problem. Basically, the party comes across a little baby, and we take care of said little baby, and the little baby ends up being an avatar of one of the deities of the gods. What the fuck was the name of the god? It was the god the nature god who's supposed to get killed by the death god all the time. Yeah, we called him Baby Ned. And he became an unofficial companion to the party as we go on our ulterior motive to find this crashed down blimp and ship. In D&D lore, there is a nature god, I think it's like Obadiah or something, that's supposed to get killed by the god of death. Is it Merkel or one of them? And the culmination of this story, the end, which kind of really hints at what's happening in Arconas, is a death god arrives to kill the god of Ned, baby Ned, who's now who grows up. Like throughout the story, he kind of leaves and grows up. And Ned, I think it's Obadiah. I really do think it's Obadiah. Is it? Obadiah? Yeah. Ned is actually Obadiah, right? And in the story, he gets killed by anyway. At the very, very end of this campaign, the god of death emerges and shows itself, and Obadiah goes, "That's not who's supposed to kill me. This isn't right." Because another god of death took over the portfolio of the god of death who's supposed to kill him, and kind of fucks with the mythology, fucks with the lore. Yeah, Obadiah. The other main points in this story, there were some great moments, by the way. The party befriends some shambling mounds, and the shambling mounds assist us. Is my character, Daleth, is actually supposed to be a spy working against the party. But that doesn't really factor in, and as a player, I kind of made some mistakes. But my intention was to hide evidence of the princess of the person of the crashed ship being found, and I very rarely get to do that. It doesn't really come into play in the narrative. The organic part of it, of the storytelling on that campaign, kind of took over. But yeah, my character was supposed to be in opposition, like a hidden enemy. I wasn't supposed to directly go against the party, but I was supposed to try to cover it up. That was why I was sent as Daleth. But that's beside the point. I mean, that's not relevant to anything, because it just didn't really work out that way. But yeah, Obadiah gets killed by a different god of death, and in this epic cataclysmic battle, which we're not supposed to be participating in, because we're just mere mortals, what do we know? And that's beneath the veil. It's a very self-contained campaign, but it is important to the rest of the story of Arconas and the God War that's about to happen. It's worth watching if you just want to watch like a self-contained campaign. Like one that has its own characters, own story, different characters, different locations. It has some pretty epic moments. It has some pretty funny moments. It has some very uncertain moments. It is a fun campaign. Worth watching if you're just bored and want to watch something kind of detached from the main story that's happened in Arconas. I will say some behind-the-scenes facts here. Gorbad wanted to go to a different continent because he felt he was running out of real estate in the main continent. He felt that he had filled in enough of the main story of the main continent and wanted to do something a little different. And Sidoria was that answer. Sidoria was, necromancy was kind of allowed. Everyone lived on the mountaintops. Beneath the Veil was very dangerous and untamed and allowed for a lot of creative maps and creative locations with interesting lore bits. By the way, Sidoria has a cameo in the earlier campaign of the Mists of Cairnmore. In the Mists of Cairnmore in Carverock. Up here in Carverock, the Dwarf Mountain Kingdom. One of the ships from Sidoria does make it to Carverock. It is a connecting point for trade and relations, because it's over here. Sidoria's to the west of Carverock, so that was kind of cool. That's a little tidbit, little callback. Gorbad loves doing little callbacks to other zones and locations. Gorbad had this commissioned and gave it to a winner in chat, and that was Junk Farmer. That's little baby Obadhai down here in the Beneath the Veil with the gemstones on the tree. This is the tree that we found him, which was like it. It was like a magical kind of tree. And we nurtured little baby Obadhai, and then he grew up. He left us and returned and then got murdered by the wrong god of death. So that was fun. That was a good time. Thank you, Junk, for sharing that, by the way. Alright. We are getting... okay. Rise of the Fallen returns. Emlyn Sin, Tolgar Wolfspine, Lilith Edenwood, and Thelonious Conch, and Kyla Ward. As you can see, it's a big party. Satch plays Kyla, who's basically a ranger rogue murderer. Thelonious plays a wizard, an enchantment wizard, who is evil. Lilith plays her Lilith Underwood, the human thrall of Malconfets, the slut, the whore. Tolgar plays the the wolf spine, the Bloodscar tribe, barbarian, and I play the tiefling warlock named Emlyn Sin. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I actually don't remember much about this campaign. I know what is the overarching play? It's to get revenge on Porthen to win, right? So, yeah. So, at the end of Wrath of the Fallen, Tolgar returns to his tribe, finds it a basic ruin. I think it's his brother, has taken over, and Tolgar basically fights him, I think kills him, and takes over the tribe, which is a shattered remain of its former self. Emlyn uses the state of Tolgar's tribe to say, listen, I know that Porthen DeWint, the wizard in Corthan, that I want revenge on, has magical items that can aid and benefit your tribe. So that's their character's motivations. Kyla, as Satchmo, joins as a ranger rogue murderer because it's evil and a good thing to do. Lilith is a part, Spook is a part of this campaign for like the first 10-ish episodes before she had to take a break because of real life. So Lilith is only a little bit, factors in a little bit. And then there's Thelonious Conch, who is an old geriatric wizard, enchanter wizard of evil, who wants items of power. He's there for items of power. Did Kylo want revenge too? Okay. Cool. Kylo wanted revenge too. I actually don't remember that. I only really remember the highlights of this campaign. One of those highlights being Emlyn gets murdered by his own party and turned into an undead monster. We meet up with Portha Dwynts at the end. It didn't come up except for the first episode. Yeah, it's one of those, like, pre-planned thoughts and motivations that when the roleplay takes over and the organicness of the roleplay takes over, it kind of falls by the wayside. At the end, items of power are doled up amongst the party. Emlyn, as an undead minion now, because of an awesome encounter with an actual other demon, gets imbued with scary power, which will be used to empower the decimated Scarblood tribe. Sheep Rustlers in Disguise self, his name was Merchant Salesman. Jesus, Shane, I don't remember that either. Don't know, the way that Gorbat was talking about distance, there was hundreds of miles between villages and the mainland. Seems like a lot of space. Yeah, but I think he just felt he was running out of real estate. Sorry about backtracking there. Yeah, Shane, find the clip. You could put it in the Discord and, like, other clips. Other game clips, or you could put it in Howreroll clips if you want. But stay here with me now, because, you know, this is going on a little bit longer than I intended, and, you know. This was a very fun campaign, but I'll be entirely honest, a lot of it has blurred together with Wrath of the Fallen to me. So, a lot of the specifics I don't remember. I remember the demon was testing the party to how evil they could be, and it got to kind of a point where Emlyn, in an exasperation, said, fuck this, kill me then, I'll be the sacrifice for the party. And he was rewarded with his undead state, which gave him additional powers, but also had some limitations. Tolgar was given, I think, like a magical blood infusion of some sort, which gave him a certain amount of strength. And all of this was to eventually be used against Portha Dwynts, a very, very powerful wizard that Emlyn had always wanted revenge on. But he wanted to revenge on him specifically, Emlyn did, because Portha Dwynts had a very special gemstone of very immense power. And that's what Emlyn got at the end of this campaign. There was a lot of body stacking, a lot of murder, a lot of doing bad things because we're bad people. There was a few wasted items of power. I think Thelonious... Was this the campaign where Thelonious Conch used the Pearls of Power on an almost dead monstrosity? I think it is. I could be wrong, but it was a very funny part where Shane, maybe, yeah. I'm just trying to think. There was a funny moment where Emlyn had to hunt down livestock in a village because when he slashed at it, he would heal himself. So he basically was chasing a pig for half of that session. Yeah, that's it, Shane. Yeah, it was the Pearls of Power. We were fighting this, like, horse demon monstrosity, which we almost killed. And Matt, as Thelonious, had a what's called a Pearl of Power, which every little bead was an arcane missile. And he basically used the entire bead on the horse to kill it. And it was only at like 10 health left. And he wasted it because he dealt like 135 damage to it. It was hilarious. And even I was like, you don't need to use all those pearls. Rise of the Fallen was what it was. It was still a revenge tale, but it was to empower them as a party for the next phase, right? Which is not a good thing. Not a good thing. Jesus. I just realized how little I remember about this campaign, even though I had such a blast on it. No, I think he was there. I don't think I would ever use that many pearls of beads. Yes, Midgard made a reappearance where we eventually killed him using ladder strats, basically. We killed the bounty hunter that was hunting us. Thank you, Prepper. Yeah, so there was a lot of like push and pull. We did fight some mind flayers here, I believe, in one of the towns underneath the church. There was a mind flayer den. Each missile is 1d4 plus 1, yes. Yeah, Sentinel, he used like 30 beads of power or something. We desecrated the tomb. We, yeah, we did a lot. Wenta, who's Wenta? Oh, Wenta Wenta, yes, one of the gods, right? Yeah, you know, Sentinel, it was pretty fucking epic. Thank you, Shay. It was a good time. So this marked the end of Spook on our Monday show. She joined the Thursday cast. Just so you guys know. The Goddess of Autumn and Beer. Yes, so she was another example of the God War kind of coming more to the forefront. Which is why I still suggest and still think that Amundsen's god, patron, the gold one, as a mython, is the Chaos God. Which ties back to the first campaign and is why the gods are kind of like all dying, basically. Or some of them are dying, and some of them are taking over, or doing things that they weren't supposed to do. There's a lot of movement in the heavens, on all sides of the spectrum, which will play in later on, by the way, in the main campaign that has to do with the God War. For those who have been watching Howreroll for a while, Emlyn, Tolgar, Kyla, and Theolonius now are secondary flagship characters. They are characters that are supposed to see their entire story. So there's a lot of story real estate devoted to them. At this point in Howreroll history, Radovan, Kia, Reza, and Marlowe are kind of left behind. There's still another story to tell with him, but we want to move forward to what's happening now with the God War and intimations of more shit happening. So Emlyn is supposed to be a replacement flagship character, at least on the evil spectrum. But that all changes with the next campaign we're going to go into now. Prepper. She's being part of the Valeri pantheon, the old gods, with her sisters Atroa, Sotilion, and brother Telcher. You might be thinking of a different game altogether, Sentinel. I'm about to get there. Yeah. Yeah, we're pretty good. I think we're pretty good. I'm sorry I didn't go into more detail, but that's the gist of this campaign, Rise of the Fallen. It's, as a party, getting revenge on Portland to win, stealing his items of power, and empowering themselves as a party to go for the next phase, which is supposed to be terrifying. The last line in this campaign was, when Amlin Sin holds in his little undead hands this gemstone, you all feel really, really wrong. You don't feel good about what just was given to this monstrosity. And that's Rise of the Fallen. I can guarantee you that if Howreroll lasts longer than Curse of Strahd and longer than the following campaign, we will return to these characters because they're a lot of fun to play. They're evil. It's like a flip on the other party members. It's a flip on the other adventures we've done, the other campaigns.
To very flamboyantly start sashaying up to them. Oh, gentlemen! And start walking forward. I hear you have valuable livestock I would like to purchase from you.
Oh, yes, indeed. We have fine 5 mature sheep here and a lovely little lamb.
Oh, that sounds absolutely splendid. May I take a closer look at the merchandise?
Please, come closer. Come much closer.
Sure, absolutely. And I'll start kind of walking up here. You may put down your weapons. I am of no danger to you and your friends.
Not at all. Don't worry. These are just for our own protection. As they all lower their weapons. The one with the crossbow looks at Emlyn and goes...
I'm not gonna approach, but I'm gonna give a little wave. Which one is the strongest looking of them? Like...
If you're purely going by girth, probably this fellow over here. He's a bit kind of rugged and brutish.
Sorry, I didn't see where you...
Yeah, didn't ping.
Okay. Alright.
Is that yes? These are some fine livestock. We would be requesting 8 gold pieces for all 5 of these fine sheep, including the lamb. Quite a steal, I do believe.
Ooh, that does sound like a lovely price point, but I didn't become such a successful and rich merchant by taking the word of people. Why don't you have one of your friends bring each sheep to me so I may inspect them to make sure they're of top quality?
Wouldn't it be easier for you to go to where all the 5 sheep are tied up and look yourself?
I could turn back around and leave if you'd rather.
No.
So just so you guys know, Satchmo's up here.
No. Of course.
I'm down here. I don't know what other people are.
It is Babaya's prerogative, of course. Sean, if you wouldn't mind, bring each sheep to this fine gentleman. Oh, sorry, I didn't catch your name.
My name?
Is?
Yes.
What is your name?
Well, if you insist,
it is. Your name is?
My name is... Merchant Salesman.
Fuck this, I'm out.
My bow is at the ready. Just in case.
I don't remember that at all. Holy shit, that's awesome. Merchant Salesman. God damn it. Matt, you fucker. Merchant Salesman. So yeah, that was that campaign. That was Rise of the Fallen. Oh my god. Alright. Now we're going to Echoes of Aldersea, which unfortunately doesn't have a map, where I play a Goliath druid named Olekma Valukanathi. Jane plays Annie Sinclair. Britt, Christy is her first time playing, plays Britannica, and Serranio de Yum is Matt. He also had the hilarious RP as the Florian worshiper in a diaper who saw a tree demon, so you could steal embalming fluid for Emlyn. Shane, Jesus Christ, you cut deep. Awesome. Yes. Alright. So, Echoes of Aldersea is the beginning of the new flagship characters. We all started at level 1. It's the first campaign of 3 planned campaigns, where the first campaign is basically, listen, the party of strangers are put on a boat and sent to a far-off land because they have a ping in their head saying that you need to be there. And the ping in their head ultimately culminates in them learning that they are demigods. They are children of deities in the good space of heaven that are being called into action because of the god war that's happening in the heavens. It is a special 3.5 campaign where we have weapons that level up in power. We glean and get new powers as well as we level up in an incremental way. Gorbad uses the dead levels of 3.5 to empower us to do superhuman things. So the campaign of Echoes of Aldersea is us learning that what's something called the Godstone has been taken from the prime material plane and brought to the Hells. And because it's no longer on the prime material plane, the pantheon of gods around Arconas and abroad become vulnerable because the Godstone is no longer where it should be. Yeah, dead levels as in 3.5 has a bunch of levels as you power up your character that nothing really happens. You don't gain anything really important or interesting. So Gorbad filled it with demigod powers. Demigod power this. Your weapon gets stronger or does a new thing. That's what I mean by dead levels in 3.5. So, I will actually play this intro because it's fucking cool. Jay did a great job. And then we can continue talking about it.
All right, Taryn. Time for bed.
Oh, Dad! Can I at least hear one of Grandfather's stories?
All right. Settle down. Long ago, in the first score years of the Age of Renewal, the gods made themselves known. Now,
But I thought the gods were around in the first age, the early age.
I'm sorry about this border, by the way, but I'm not going to change the image for just this little thing. So just bear with it.
well, somewhere, yes. But most of the gods that we know now didn't exist then. Or if they did, they remained quiet. Anyway, each god took dominion over the elements, land, sea, earth, and various other aspects of the world around us. And men and elves and the other races began to worship them.
Is it true that some mortal men became gods, Grandfather?
Oh, yes, like St. Cuthbert and so forth. Well, it was prophesied that one day some of the gods would become jealous and covet the worshippers of others. And some gods would then become silent. It would herald the beginning of the Age of Turmoil.
Is that why the Temple to Osprey is closed now?
Perhaps. Some say that the Age of Turmoil has started, and the gods are at war with one another.
But if the gods are at war, Grandfather, what will happen to us?
Come on, that's enough now. You're scaring the boy. Oh, don't worry. The good gods knew this day would come. I'm sure they are ready. I'm sure they have a plan.
I heard the druids in the west are dwindling too, and that Obed High no longer answers their call.
Right, to sleep you, and take no notice of your grandfather. That's just a story, right? Yes, just a story. One that echoes from the lands of Aldersea.
Hey! There's a name! What's that beautiful fucking name of a very awesome person who eventually joined Howreroll? It's Nat! Yes, I think this was the first time Nat helped Howreroll in one of these intros with the voice. She played the little boy. I think that's awesome, by the way. Yes. So, this is the first campaign of 3 planned campaigns with these characters. Alekma, Annie, Serrano, Britannica, and Britannica. Britannica, Christy plays Britannica, who is not a demigod, but a celestial. She is an angel sent from the heavens to protect the demigods on their quest. Serrano is a demigod of Rao, right? I think Rao is like the martial punchy guy. Annie Sinclair is... Who the hell did she follow again? God, I don't remember that. Who's my god? Oh, he's like a Valona, but who is his patronage? It doesn't matter. I don't even remember myself. I might have to like reread some things. But they are on a quest to discover who they are in Echoes of Aldersea, stop some demons or devils. I mean, there's some like iffy stuff about like who's on what side. Who are trying to stop them, and oh yes, we get introduced to an archdevil in this campaign, a beautiful archdevil. Holy shit, my mind is like blanking. But we learn that the Godstone has been removed, and that we have to find a way to travel to that level of hell to bring it back, to stop the instability in the heavens. Oh, it says Modius, by the way. I didn't actually forget. I was just, you know. Yes, Sentinel. Yes. A lot of little mini callbacks to the other campaigns. In this campaign, we get visited many times by one of the coolest bad guys ever, Asmodeus, who has his own ulterior motive to help the party, because with this God War happening, his domain is kind of threatened. Now, whether he's being actually helpful or being deceptively helpful remains to be seen. But in the end, the party finds one of the most powerful wizards in all of the lands to gain his trust, that they are not agents of evil, and basically begin to discover a way to the level of hell that the Godstone is in, to bring it back. That is the quest. The first campaign of this set is what was Echoes of Aldersea, where we learn our roots, we learn our story, we learn our purpose, and then the second campaign is gonna be something to the effect of finding a way to get there, and the third campaign is actually getting there. I think that is the kind of the arc of the story through these 3 campaigns. But there's only been one of these. We have to return to Echoes of Aldersea and this campaign and the sequel of this campaign in the future. When we will return to it, I don't know. But this is Echoes of Aldersea. It has one of the most unfortunate things that happened. There is a missing episode because the file got corrupted and I can't no longer get it. So there is a entire entire session where Cyrano, Matt's character, discovers his roots, and he fights a beast, and he learns that he is a child of Rao. So that episode is missing in YouTube. It is one of the only episodes in our entire 10-year history that got corrupted and got lost. So there's a chunk missing of this campaign, which is just a tragedy, because that hasn't happened ever since or ever again. At least as far as I know. People might tell me otherwise. But it sucks, because this is an epic god campaign. That's the point. Where everyone's a little bit stronger than they should be. So, just for an example, this is where we left off. Talking to the wizard, learning the location, learning the lore. Getting an info dump. So it's a 3.5 campaign. We ended at level 9, right? Level 9-ish. Alekma Swan Mother Valakanathi. 16 strength, 14 dex, 14 con, 10 intelligence, 18 wisdom, 10 charisma. He is a druid. When we rolled up stats for these characters, we could have no value lower than 10. So if we rolled lower than 10, they became 10. This is the part of the perk of being a demigod, is that you can't have anything lower than 10. Fortitude of 8, reflex of 5, will of 10. He has Obsidian's Flight. It's a magical magical weapon. 2, 2, and 2, as you can see. Weapon enhanced, weapon focus, weapon specialization. With a 3 times crit modifier. Could be thrown. Strength based. Special properties. It's large, stone obsidian tip. 3 feathers. If you use a feather, you get plus 20 insight to your hit modifier. It's a returning weapon, and the feathers regenerate per day. So basically, I could pluck one of the 3 feathers, and when I do my to hit rotation, I can add a plus 20 to make sure you hit. It's a returning weapon, so when you throw it, you could immediately get it back in your hands. Those were some of the magical powers that were attributed to it. As you can tell, it'll get better and better as it go on and on. And spells. Wow. God, it's been so long since I've seen this character sheet. Lekma has a ring that allows him to summon a djinn. It's a blue djinn with a top, like a chef's hat. Do I not have other notes? God damn. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at all this stuff like, what? Where did I have the other, like, qualities? I don't even remember this page. I think this is newly added to the 3.5 sheet. Um... Oh, yeah, here we go. So, I did a Goliath Druid substitution. So when I summon animals or summon creatures, they're stronger. Nature Sense, Wild Empathy, Woodland Stride, Trackless Step, Resist Nature's Lure, Wild Shape level 5, Earth Companion. I forgot about all of that, by the way. Creation Feat, Point Blank Shots, Mountain Warrior, +1 to the Constitution, Natural Spell. I can cast while in Wild Shape. I think I completely forgot about it. +1 Constitution, level 9 feet is Heavy Lithoderms, +1 to Natural Armor. So I have my God powers. Here we go. Just as an example. 2 times Augury Spell and Divination. An Augury Spell is, so that was the first one I got. I could do the Augury Spell that clerics get access to. And later on, no lore 2 times a day to no shit. I wrote no shit. I love it. +10 to any knowledge domains. Divine Tracking, like 3 days concentration. So we got these on kind of like off levels, like the weird levels that you don't really get anything as druids. Cyrano, I don't know what his sheet actually looks like, but he 10 strength, 20 dexterity, 15 con, 14 intelligence, 10. I don't think Matt rolled the best. But he has sneak attack, obviously. Character creation, he took 2 weapon fighting. And his god powers are pretty cool. He got access to a couple spells. I think one of them was... Did he write it down here, or did he write it down elsewhere? He had like a God Punch spell, where he could he had a special weapon, which was a Silver Bite, and he had an ability that allowed him to do like a Super Saiyan Punch, you know. And that was Echoes of Aldersea. No, I don't have the Corrupted File Sentinel. It's just lost to time. It's just an unfortunate loss. But that was Echoes of Aldersea. It was like the first real God campaign, where the party learns who they are, what their history is. They got stronger and stronger. They learned that they had to find a way into the levels of hell to bring back a stone that needs to be on the prime material plane for the gods to no longer be able to kill and fuck with each other. And that's all the context we learned with Echoes of Aldersea, was basically that. And one of the last campaigns we did was of Kith and Kin, which was a shorter campaign, 5th edition, where there was Lasticus Swadwell, Fenifer P, Fiphany P, and Lyra Grand made her grand return. Jane returns with Lyra Grand, the legendary ranger, after being transferred to Erosia. Lyra spends a few years bumbling about as the supposed queen of Erosia. To be honest, she hated it. The job doesn't excite her. The subjects are all terrified of her. Her Lord Nathan Ra can't even bring her entertainment. She learns botany and begins making gardens to pass time. She misses the truth, throws the light back in Arconas. Basically, the beginning of this campaign, Lasticus, my character, is a wizard. He's a wizard of... he's a abjuration wizard. Fiphany and Fenifer are the most annoying characters in God's Green Earth. They're religious Pelorian nuts. We're all sent to kill the Vampire Lord from Mindenbrook Sorrow, only to find that Lyra is there, bored out of her mind, ready to go home. The campaign itself is a comical campaign. The idea is to be funny. We were supposed to be amusing. And we thought we were stopping this strange, weird mystery of this strange murderer dude and missing people. only to discover that Lyra's mother wanted to berate her for being missing in action for several years. And the final encounter was Nat coming on stream as Lyra's mother to give her shit. And the entire mystery and danger of the campaign is a false flag of sorts, in that it might still actually be a thing, but it's not the focus and it's not the point. And all like the big bads we fight towards the end are because we go in the wrong entrance. We're supposed to go around the back of the mountains to where Lyra's mother is, and we instead go into the front where there's an ancient temple with a lot of evil shit and traps and stuff. It was a very fun campaign. It was a very short campaign. There was a whole section where we got transformed into mice, and we have to fight like cats and shit and weasels. And all because of a familiar of a witch kind of goes batshit and screws with the witch, and then we get like transformed into mice. It was, if you just want like a fun, funny campaign of Kith and Kin, is it's where it's at. It's silly. It's slightly high level, like mid level. I think our characters end up like level 11ish, and Lyra returns. It's a fan favorite of Lyra. Jane got to play Lyra again, and she had a lot of fun. It was like a kind of a sequel to Mindenbrook Sorrow, where the rest of us played different characters. Kind of nutters. You know, Fiffany and Fenifer were just like joined at the hip, and they were all about P-lore, and they were crazy, and my character was kind of like Indiana Jones with magical flair. And that was of Kith and Kin. That was of Kith and Kin. That was all. That's all you really need to know about it. It's a fun kind of departure from the seriousness of Echoes of Aldersea, but you know it's still taking place during the Age of Turmoil and the God Wars. So there you go. And lastly is a relative Curse of Strahd, which we all know is not actually in Arconas, or Sidoria, or Erosia, or any of the other continents of that planet. It takes place in Barovia. It has to do with Strahd. But the premise is simple. The characters, they're all a part of the Mildwood family, and the Mildwood family is from Arconas. So we could draw upon Arconas in our backstory, wanting to return there. So technically, A Relative Curse of Strahd is a story about Arconas. Just, you know, it's pushed to the side because the party goes through the mists and ends up in Barovia. I'm sure Gorbad will do something clever or creative about connecting Curse of Strahd to the larger God War, but it's not necessary. It could just be its own little self-contained, very large campaign. Yeah, Strahd's plane can touch anywhere. Exactly. So it's tangentially suggested. So moving forward after Strahd, which will be a while yet, unless we take like a dedicated break, which is not on the cards, we have to finish Radovan's story, Kia's story, Marlowe's story, but that could be a 1-shot, 2-shot, 3-shot, 4-shot. It doesn't have to be a long-form campaign. Their characters probably have to learn of the God War. Marlowe wants to kill a Baihu, which is like this mystical white lightning tiger thing, which is kind of a spirited thing, like the Lady in White character from the other stories. Amlin, Tolgar, and that crew, Thelonious, needs to have their third campaign, which probably will have to do with Azamiathon and the Chaos Gods and the evil sides of the God War. Alekma and them from Echoes of Aldersea need to find out how to go to Hell, and then go to Hell to save the Godstone and stop the God War from happening. And a lot of the other characters can either come and go as they please. Like, there's no necessary plan to bring them back, but they can come back in various forms or ways. And that's it. I mean, that's pretty much the story of Howreroll the main campaign in a nutshell. I will say that a couple years, like 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, Gorbad talked about characters from different campaigns possibly all meeting together and joining forces for other campaigns. That you're not necessarily stuck with Marlowe, Kia, and Radovan as a party. What if Radovan and Kia, joins Asher? Or, I mean, not Asher, but joined another party's character. Like another campaign's character. Like Amelia or Marigold or whatever from Sidoria. There's always ways to... We talked about how fun it would be to mix and match some of the parties, some of the characters, bringing their own history, their own story together to tell an all-new story. Obviously, how to make it so you can, go between editions is a problem, is a challenge, but you never know. But that's kind of the fun of things, is the parties don't have to stay the parties in the next campaign. We could do one where we mix and match. And if someone really if Jane really wants to play Lyra, she could play Lyra, and what if I play Radovan with Lyra, The possibilities are kind of endless, and honestly, I am having an absolute blast with Curse of Strahd and the Mildwood family. I'm loving the story so far. It has been going on for 2 years, so if at any time the rest of the cast are like, look, I need a break, I would love to return to other characters, other stories, other campaigns, possibly mixing and matching, if it makes sense. It has to make sense. And then having a little break. But there's no talk of that happening anytime soon, just so you guys know. But we're going to be in Barovia for another year of Howreroll. And then what our follow-up campaign will be for Monday will be a serious discussion, because first off, Matt, Christy, Jane, and Gorbad all have to want to do return to certain characters. But you never know. Well, that's the thing. The God War is technically already kicked off. Who would be most closely attached to the God War in terms of the storyline? Emlyn, Tolgar, Alekma, Cyrano, the Britannica, and Radovan. Radovan would be as well, because he's a war priest of St. Cuthbert, high level. He would probably learn of the God War and want to be involved in some way. And that could be part of the next narrative storytelling we do. Shane, I honestly have no idea. I like going from campaign to campaign, doing something different enough, right? That is my... Now, what that entails, I don't know. I can't say. I'd be game and open for a lot. It would be nice to return to Radovan. It would be nice to return to Emlyn. It would be nice to return to Alekma. I like all three of those characters. I wouldn't mind returning to Lasticus. He was a lot of fun, too. I imagine Jane wouldn't mind returning to Kia or Lyra. I think she loves those characters. I think Matt loves Thelonious a lot, and I think he enjoyed Cyrano quite a bit. Christy I think Christy loved Britannica. She also, I think, loved her little fucking Pelorian chickadee. And Satch, I don't know what Satch enjoyed, but I'm sure she could tell you. Does anyone have any questions? Because my voice is a little raw. I need to rest it. We've been doing this for a while. I will edit and export and upload this section on Howreroll. Kind of like a full recap of the story so far with a little bits and bobs. I will create a channel on Discord essentially talking about the rewatch we want to do, Satchmo and I want to do, with more details. Sentinel, I hope this helped you get some clarity on the story so far. And anyone else who was here watching, thank you for Prepper and Shane for helping with some input and some details that I forgot. Yeah. Yeah, my voice is shot. I have a dinner to go to tomorrow with some friends, and I have Howreroll tomorrow night. So I should probably rest my voice. Yeah, I'm definitely feeling the strain, by the way. So what I'm gonna do is this, my Pringles, and I'm gonna have the rest of my pork fried rice with some. I'm gonna have a glass of milk to soothe my throat. Yes, I said that. I drink milk. I'm an old man and I drink milk. I could do a follow-up to this if you guys want to talk specifics and talk, like, little moments or vignettes. Please share anything on Discord that you might want, like, us to rewatch as a group. Could be a lot of fun if we do that. Obviously, that will be separate from Satchmo and I wanting to do, like, a full rewatch of episodes. Look forward to that channel on the Discord in the near future, because that's where you guys can say, I want you to rewatch this episode or that episode. I got bugs in here, by the way, with some mosquitoes I'm trying to kill. So, sorry about that. But yeah, Junk, Snug, thank you for lurking. Beta, Sentinel, Shane, thank you guys for hanging. Okay, that's weird, Sentinel. I don't really mind about that. I'm not going to deal with that now. I'm tired. I gotta eat. I gotta rest my voice. But thank you for letting me know. I will fix it later. Yeah, so that was 10 years of storytelling history, going through Marks of Intrigue, Dark Inquest, Children of Jakar, Wrath of the Fallen, Mindenbrook Sorrow, Mists of Cairnmore, Beneath the Veil, Rise of the Fallen, Echoes of Aldrassil, of Kith and Kin, and A Relative Curse of Strahd. Sweet. But good night, and thank you. Love you all. See ya!